Hello, welcome to another Time to Remember. I'm David Callister, and this week we hear some more memories of a remarkable character who described himself as Kusha Gyogi of northern Tibet, but was regarded by MI5 as a quack and compulsive liar.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, may I ask you to give a real big welcome, please, back onto the stage of the Enchanted Hall, His Excellency Dr Sir Alexander Cannan.
The voice of Gus Allegan introducing Dr Cannan to an audience at the Enchanted Hall, the theatre for magic shows that Cannan had built at Lauriston Mansion, where he ran his clinic for the treatment of nervous disorders. At this time he'd undergone the first of 2 amputations, in which he lost both legs. He claims to have discovered the secrets of the Orient and the Mystic East, and that he'd travelled to China, Tibet, India and elsewhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now wish to take you on our magic carpet to see some of the great mysteries of the Orient. Half close your eyes and imagine that the roof just vanishes into thin air.
Start of one of his acts. A regular visitor to the Enchanted Hall was local magician Bill Risley.
I spent many happy hours in the Enchanted Hall with Dr Cannan. We had shows there, and in my time we had a show at the anniversary of his death, and it was very interesting.
This magician stuff was his hobby, was it?
It was his hobby, and it took over his life in the later years. It absolutely took over his whole life.
What sort of magic was he interested in?
He was interested in magic of the mind.
Thought transference.
Thought transference he was interested in, and of course he tried to relieve people from stress and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, but he got to know the local magicians and invited them up for shows, did he?
Oh yes, the local magicians at one time used the place as for the magicians of man. Yes, oh yes they did. They did quite a lot of shows up there.
Who were the people then who went along with you to do shows?
There was Dr Pycraft, I remember. There was Gus Allegan, who was a very good magician. There was Tom Morley, that used to have the newsagent shop on the quay. There was Percy Cowley.
Salamander.
Salamander, he went under the name of Salamander. He was quite good at escapology and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
How good was Dr Cannan as a magician then?
Well, no, I'm not going to answer that question.
You know,
no.
I've been told that he was, well, an amateur's amateur, was he?
Yes, he was, but he'd spent a fortune on the job and he was absolutely mad on it.
Yes.
But don't forget, he'd lost both his legs, and I give him all the credit in the world for carrying on with all his endeavours that he did in later life, with all this that he got worrying him.
Chris was a junior civil servant working at the Highway Board when she first encountered Dr Cannan.
I remember we had to send him an account for something, and if you didn't put all the letters that he had behind his name, he sent it back to you. It was unknown. Yes. So you always had to make sure there was about 35 to 40 letters after his name. Everybody was puzzled at what they represented. But anyway, yeah, he just went around the town, and he had wing collar, just like a Mr. Pickwick he was like, really. And of course he held his magic shows, and if he liked you or he met you like that, he would invite you to them. Yeah. I went to a few of them, and one of them, he imported a lot of magicians from across.
Didn't you get pulled up on stage?
Yes. I got invited one night with these magicians coming over. He invited magicians all the time, but this particular night he had 6 top magicians of England, and I didn't know any of them. They weren't top names, but in his eyes they were top magicians. And they did various things, simple things when you look back now. And there was a seat kept for my husband and myself down on the front row, and of course I thought I was like a VIP, sat there on the edge like this. The first magician came on, and he wanted an assistant, and of course he pointed to me. I was a plant, which I didn't know. Pointed to me and he said, "Would you help me?" So up I go, and of course he did these simple tricks, but to me, when you're standing on the stage holding objects and in front of you, they all move. For instance, I had a pack of cards there, and he'd shown the cards to the audience, and somebody'd picked a card out. Yeah. Then he gave me the pack, yes. And to tell the person in the audience what was the card, he made me hold this card, and he went away from me, and the next thing was standing there looking like this, and he's chatting away, and the next thing, out of the pack, this card just comes up on its own. So it was quite an amazement.
So
I've never seen it
attached
since.
In some sort of
well, he must have done. It must have been. They said it was. Afterwards, people saying there's a rubber band at the bottom, yeah. And then as it untwines, so it lifts the card. But I believe my face was a picture. Seen this card coming up. In fact, I can see it now.
Yeah.
And then there was another one. The next magician came on. I went and sat down. And the next thing is, he's asking me again, would I go up and help him? Yeah. And all through the night, for about 6 or 7 of the magicians, I helped every one of them. And I can't remember all the tricks now, but the other one was, this fella gave me a plum-coloured bag. It wasn't a black bag, it was a plum-coloured bag, velvet. And I had to stand there, and he said he was going to throw pennies in it. Yeah. And he went the other side of the stage, and I held the bag out like this, like a fool, to catch them. Mm-hmm. And every time he imaginary threw a penny, this bag jerked, just as though you'd thrown a penny in and it'd gone bump, you know. And he did that many times, and this bag bumped every time.
And there were no pennies in it then?
There was nothing in it, no. He said to me, just test to see what's in there. And I go, nothing.
The late Victor Kneale recalled an involvement he had with a Dr Cannan show held in St Andrew's Hall in Douglas in the early 1950s.
And he got an idea that he would like to have a big flash at the beginning, and he would appear in the middle of this flash. And he came to the Times office where I was working as the photo process engraver, to see whether we had any of the old flash powder from pre-war days from photography. And I found a jar of it there, and he asked, could he have some, and we said yes. And then he asked me whether I would come along and let the flash off for him, so I agreed to do this. The hall was packed, and there was a girl playing the piano, and her father had come along, but there wasn't a seat for him. So they put a seat behind the piano, which was sat diagonally across. And I was down there with the flash gun.
Yes.
And I'd brought the big spray gun along. And I put a little bit on. He used to only just put a scoop on, but I thought to myself, well, we won't want this anymore. So I put the whole bottle full on. I says, then we were waiting for the bell to go. And as soon as the bell went off, I let the flash go just as they were pulling the curtains. Talk about the atomic bomb going off. There was a woof. There was a great big pall of smoke went up to the ceiling, then spread out. And then the dust started to come down. This father of the girl who was playing the piano, he had a bald head, and all this hot stuff started to come in his head, and he shot up from behind the piano. I said, everybody was blinded. It must have been about 20 minutes before they got their eyesight back. I said, all the time he was standing in the middle of the stage. But at the end, his final thing about it was that he was putting himself into a trance, and he was getting into a coffin, and he was going to be in that coffin for a while. and he would bring a message back from the dead. Now, to get into the trance, he said he had to swallow his tongue. And he gets into the coffin, and they put him there, and then there was somebody singing dirges about all sort of funeral dirges and things, and lover come back to me or something like that. And after they'd finished, they opened the coffin up to take him out, but he'd forgotten to take the message from the dead into the coffin with them. So when he come out, fella gave him the message and he read it out.
A reminder that this is Time to Remember on Manx Radio, and today's reminiscences revolve around Dr Alexander Cannan. Another visitor to the shows at the Enchanted Hall was Barbra Wiseman. Her father was a piano tuner who'd assisted Dr Cannan with the repair of items of magic equipment. I asked her what she saw at the shows.
Levitation, manna from heaven, and the talking skull, which was a clockwork mechanism unknown to everybody, and my father brought it home one day to repair the mechanism, and of course my mother was horrified at having a skull in the house, and she said I wanted nothing to do with it, and of course when she found that he'd hidden it in a box under their bed, actually, well, I can't tell you what she said about that. It was really funny, but still.
Well, what about the levitation then? Your father incidentally was John Drury, wasn't he?
Yes.
And he was his profession piano tuner?
Yes, he started off with, he came here first to the island to Blakemoor's in Victoria Street, and then he went on his own and as a piano tuner, but he sort of was interested in all these sort of things, and I don't know how it came about, but he arranged these for the levitation, the couple of pulleys and piano strings, and it went up. Sometimes it went up a bit cockeyed, but still, it seemed to work because everybody knew it wasn't genuine. Yes. And then I don't know who it was who used to throw bits of cakes and things from the manna from heaven coming down.
Dr Cannan died in 1963. He was buried in Onchan churchyard. In later years, when his two assistants, Rhonda de Rhonda and Frida Butler, died, they joined him in their coffins as well. The names can now be seen inscribed on the headstone. But Barbra Wiseman told me about a strange incident that occurred when she attended Dr Cannan's funeral.
Well, after the funeral, Rhonda asked me if I would mind taking a photograph or cinefilm of the flowers, which I did after everybody had moved away. I filmed all the floral tributes outside, and there was a little bit of film left. So I thought, well, I'll use it up for something. So I thought, well, interior of the church. I went in and I started panning round, and as I looked, say, to the left, I saw this very, very blinding bright light. And I thought, oh, this is going to spoil the film. And so I panned further round the church, and this light appeared again further round. And I thought, oh, well, that film, it won't be any good. But anyway, it was sent up to be processed to Kodak, like you had to do then. And when it came back, it was projected. It was like an opaque outline of a figure, a portly tummy, and it finished just below the knees. Now, when this was projected and Rhonda saw it, first thing she said was, oh, my goodness, it's the doctor. And, of course, he'd had his legs amputated below the knees. Of course, it wasn't my film, so I left it with her, so I don't know what happened to it. But somebody said it was going to be forwarded up to the Institute for Psychic Research, and that's all I know about it. But it was uncanny, really. It did just look exactly like the doctor.
And here's Alexander Cannan again at the Enchanted Hall in 1957, introducing one of his star guests, but this time not a magician.
His recollections are of an auditory nature, not what he sees, what he hears. He does not employ mnemonics so far as he knows, and does not claim to be able to do more than one thing at a time. There is no question of his making use of any magical stunts, nor does telepathy play any part whatsoever in his exhibitions.
Leslie Welsh, billed as the Memory Man, was a big star in variety and on radio. He had a phenomenal memory for sporting facts and figures and was rarely at a loss to answer a question on sport from the audience.
What great amateur steeplechase jockey never achieved his life's ambition to win the Grand National, and what was his latest achievement?
What great amateur steeplechase jockey? Well, I know of several, sir, who could be called great, who never achieved their life ambition, but I believe... Are you by any chance referring to the late Lord Marmay? Lord Marmay, yes. He was very, very unlucky. His greatest piece of bad luck, of course, was on Davy Jones in Reynoldsdown, 1936. Davy Jones, he would have won the Grand National with Davy Jones without any shadow of doubt at all. But unfortunately, his stirrup leather broke just as he was approaching the last fence, and Davy Jones ran out.
After Dr Cannan died, Lauriston was left to his two female assistants for the duration of their lives. Rhonda died in 1968, Frida in 1973, and in April 1974, Alexander Cannan's vast collection of books and Oriental antiques was sold by auction at Lauriston over 2 days. It attracted worldwide interest. Many bids ran high. £1,500, for instance, was paid for an 18th century marquetry bureau. Many other items attracted purchases in the thousands. Crystal Brothers and Stott held the auction, which took place in the Enchanted Hall. One of the auctioneers was Keith Kerruish.
The highest priced item of the day, I think, was $3,900. I still hold a souvenir copy of this catalogue, and it was a 19th century continental cupboard with ivory figures, tortoiseshell columns, 4 drawers, false drawers, which was in keeping with the doctor's magical aspirations. It was a very decorative piece. In today's figures, it probably would have been of the order £25,000-30,000, I would guess.
How many buyers would have been at the sale, can you remember?
There was great fascination by the trade in England. They flocked to this sale. We'd never seen so many off-island buyers at any sale ever before, and there were a sprinkling of European buyers as well interested in these Oriental artifacts.
So many of these will have gone off-island then?
Oh yes, I would say probably 2/3 of the contents went off-island.
Mm. Who did the valuation? I mean, presumably you had to have antique experts for that, did you?
We took advice on 1 or 2 of the major items from people like the Victoria and Albert Museum, but for the most part we had a shot at it ourselves.
The young lady named Chris, who, as we heard earlier, became the temporary unpaid magician's assistant, was also present at the auction.
They always said that he got presents from all these people that he attended medically. Mm. You know, hypnotist really he was. And he had a room full of papier-mâché furniture.
Yeah.
Beautiful dining chairs, sideboards, a dresser, everything all in papier-mâché.
Really?
And laid out in the room. Oh, he must have had 20 to 30 pieces. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody bought all that. And right at the entrance of it, of the house, outside, he had huge dogs, yeah. Chinese dogs. Right. They must have been about 10 or 12 foot high.
Yeah.
But they got sold in the sale too.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got them off the island. It would be a tremendous thing. And he had ivories, beautiful ivories.
And the young lady named Chris, who prefers to be named that, saw one of the dealers from across the water. He got into conversation with her.
This fellow came in and asked could he sit by me, then asked me lots of questions, was I local and all that kind of thing. And he said, would you mind if I sat with you? Would you tell me all about the Isle of Man? And I told him about the Isle of Man. Mm-hmm. And he bought all the ivories. Oh. Eventually, as they came up, he bought all the ivories.
How much would he have paid for them?
£5,000 worth of ivories it was.
Yeah.
And even at lunchtime, he asked me, he walked up the drive with me, and he asked me where he could go for lunch. I think I directed him to the Villa Marina. because that cafe in the villa was open then, and it was just down the road virtually. And off he went, and he came back in the afternoon. I think most of the ivories were sold in the afternoon, but he'd already asked Crystals could he have them earlier because he wanted to go on the plane. So he paid for the ivories, got the ivories, and I think he must have gone in a taxi because he didn't have a car of his own. Off he went. But they got suspicious, I believe, and they rang the bank to see if the cheque was okay, and it wasn't. Of course, the cheque was nothing. He wasn't there. And the next thing was they sent the police after him, and they got him at Ronaldsway Airport. They got all the ivories back, and they just let him go.
And there's a strange ending to that sale in another way. It involves some purchases made by the Peel antique dealer Olive Ken.
She bought all the witchcraft artifacts. There was a lady there with 6 arms, and there was like a shriveled man. It was, I don't know what it was really, but it was like a shriveled man. They were all horrible. You wouldn't have had them in your house really. But anyway, she thought she'd buy them because they were unusual. And she had a side window at her shop in Peel, and a nice side window, and she'd done the side window out with all these artifacts. And within a few days, a woman came into her shop, and she'd just arrived in the Isle of Man. It must have been after lunch, and I don't know how she got to the Isle of Man, probably by boat. And she had a job getting to Olive Ken's. She didn't know her way or anything. She had to ask her way. And she came in and she said, you've got a whole lot of artefacts from Dr Cannan's. And Olive said, yes, they're in that side window. She said, I want to buy certain ones of it. And Olive said, yes, they're all in the window there. And she said, Dr Cannan came to me last night. I live, and it was somewhere in the south of England. I don't know where, but somewhere in the south of England. And he came to me and told me to go to the Isle of Man and buy all these certain artifacts and leave the others because they were evil.
Yeah.
The others.
That's a bit spooky, isn't it?
It is a bit spooky. I'll tell you, Olive Ken was as nervous as anything for days after. And anyway, she bought them. She left the shop, was leaving the island back the way she came, never seen again. And it really frightened Olive. Yeah. It did, yes.
Let's leave the last word with Dr Cannan himself. One of his activities at the Enchanted Hall was to present a series of 24 lectures. If you attended all of those, it would set you back 16 guineas. And along with these, he issued 48 gramophone records containing the lectures. These also had to be paid for. None of these were listed in the 730 catalogue items at the auction, and I was unable to locate any except for a recording of one of the lectures that Cannan had made on tape. This is a short extract from it.
The ability for happiness lies hidden deep in our souls. The rejuvenation of the soul is the most important matter in the world, for there is no magician like the human soul. The 3 magic gifts are courage, self-confidence, and perseverance. Ideas are things which you hold, but convictions are things which hold you. We must study great thoughts and inwardly digest the truths contained therein. We must persevere in our efforts, bearing in mind that perseverance is the world's greatest ruler and is the price of success. Mushrooms spring up in the night and wither soon afterward. So it is with shallow knowledge. The tree takes years and maybe centuries to grow, but its roots are deep and its branches are great. So be it.
Dr. Sir Alexander Cannan. Finally, I'm grateful to the late Percy Cowley, stage name Salamander, who made the Dr. Cannan recordings available to me. Percy spent many hours of his time in the company of Dr. Cannan at Lauriston. And there'll be more memories, same time, next week.